Do you want to turn your jewelry hobby into a highly successful jewelry business? If so, then stick around because in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 great tips to help you turn that into a reality. Stick around till the end because the last point I'm going to give you is a really great marketing tool, and it's free and it's super successful. My name is Megan and I'm a jewelry designer maker from South Africa, now living in Europe. For the last 7 years, I've been selling my jewelry all around the world in shops, boutiques, and exhibitions. At the end of 2021, I took a huge leap of faith. I quit my 9-to-5 job in London, moved to Belgium, and started a coaching business. Follow along as I share my experience and take you through the day-to-day of being a jewelry designer, from making to running a successful jewelry brand. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Megan and I help jewelry designer makers scale and grow their business through the power of Instagram, branding, and sales psychology and marketing to help them grow and sell with ease. So you might be thinking that the jewelry market is saturated and there's maybe no space for you in 2022 to start your own jewelry business. But actually, it's quite the opposite. The statistics show that the jewelry industry has been growing rapidly and continues to do so. So if you feel like you're not sure if you want to begin, these 5 steps that I'm going to explain in this video will help you to get there and make your goal of becoming a successful jewelry designer a reality. Starting your own handmade jewelry business comes with its own set of challenges. Yes, I hear you, but I'm here to tell you that the pros far outweigh the cons. And also it's a really easy thing to get into, especially if you're starting out with low investment. So obviously you can start off with a few basic tools, a few basic materials, and you can do quite a lot on a simple and low budget. So don't feel like you need to invest in a whole bunch of everything right away just to get started. You can also have your other job on the side as you start things up and see if things work. You can put your stuff on Etsy website, you can create your own website, you can do quite a lot still with your foot in the door of your safe other job, and then when you feel ready you can make the cut like I did when I moved to Belgium and do it completely and utterly full time. So point 1 is finding your unique stance. So what makes your jewelry brand stand out? Because obviously in a saturated world, we want to stand out and we want to make sure that people are going to recognize and appreciate the hard work that we're putting in behind the scenes. So when you first start making your jewelry, obviously you're learning the skills and you don't have a cohesive collection. But as time passes, you're going to find a niche and find an area that you feel most comfortable and most excited to work in. So whether your jewelry is all about nature-inspired, beautiful pieces, whether it's super minimalistic Scandinavian design like mine is, or whether it is really beautiful boho, intricate, amazing pieces, you're going to find an area that you feel excited by. Once you've niched this down, try and think of a way that you can really make it stand out. So this is through your pillars, which is something I go into more detail in the one-to-one, but essentially the pillars are the foundation of your business and what makes it unique. So this is to do with your branding as well. So finding a way of making sure that whatever post people see from you feels like it's you. So if they're scrolling through their Instagram feed, they're going to see your picture and they're going to go, oh my goodness, that's totally you. So moving on to our next point, which is just to simply start somewhere. Don't feel like you need to have all of the previous stuff figured out that I just mentioned. You can figure this out as you go. So obviously you're not going to wake up one morning knowing everything, but as you progress and you make more jewelry and you start to understand more about what you enjoy, what you like, and you build your setup and you have more jewelry, then you can start to hone in on that. But the main point is just to not let the fear of the whole sea of jewelry designers out there and how are you ever going to stand out stop you. Just begin today, tomorrow, just begin. And with that, you will grow in confidence as you make more pieces, as you start to show it to the world, if you do little markets, if you get it online. And that way you will be able to understand more what people like and what they want more of, what they want less of, also your price point. So you need to be able to find the target audience that is willing to pay the correct amount of money for your jewelry. So you might be making assembled pieces with found findings, or you might be making more expensive pieces with silver and gold. So the price point will also dictate the customer, and your value that you place on that piece with your prices will then be what the customer perceives as the value as well of your piece. So make sure that you're pricing your jewelry correctly so that you are attracting the ideal audience that you want. If you price your jewelry too cheaply, but it actually takes you a really long time to make, chances are that over time you're going to feel frustrated and annoyed with not earning enough, and it's not going to be a viable business model. If you haven't already grabbed yourself a copy of my pricing sheet, there's another video link up there that you can grab if you want to. But yes, it's a really important point to know your standing point and your positioning between other jewelry designers. So are you high end, or are you the affordable, cheaper option? So you need to choose where you position yourself amongst your peers. And another thing to mention about just starting is that yes, we need to learn the skills, but the skills will always be developing. As jewelry designers, I'm sure you guys who have already been doing this for a while, you know there's always more to learn. Nobody has ever asked me to see my qualification. Yes, I did study, but nevertheless, that isn't a factor that is going to influence someone buying your jewelry or not. All you need to do is make sure that you feel comfortable and confident with the quality of your jewelry. So make sure that it's not going to fall apart, and as soon as you're happy with your quality and you know that things are good quality, then you can move forward into selling it. You don't feel like you need to know everything right away. You can build on those skills, and you'll continue to build on those skills, and that is fine. In terms of where you can learn, there's plenty of courses online to teach you the skills nowadays. And you can also go to a physical school and learn jewelry there, depending on where you are in the world. Have a look what's available around you and what suits your budget. You could do it part-time potentially, you could do it full-time potentially, evening classes even, or a group online class. Have a look, see what's available, and just start. And it's so much fun. When I first did my course, which was a week little taster course, I loved it, genuinely loved it. And then I just knew that's what I wanted to do. So I made ways to fit it around my life and work through my schedule with teaching at the same time. And here I am today doing it full time. I didn't start that independently straight away. I worked up to getting to the point of being able to leave my other job and doing it full time. So you can do this if you really want to and you're passionate about it. Don't let the obstacles that you're gonna reach, that you're gonna hit along the way stop you. Rather than trying to avoid all of those challenges, try and find a way to go through them, work through each of those things. And that's the difference between someone who's successful and somebody who is not successful, is they're gonna let those obstacles stop them. But if it's something that you're truly passionate and excited about, then you're gonna find a way to do it. I know you can. Point number 3 is to get yourself set up in a workspace. So whether this is either at home, in a little self-made studio, in a spare room, or in some corner somewhere. I used to have my first workbench in my bedroom. Not ideal, I know, but I made sure the window was open when I sold it and everything was close to ventilation. Don't worry. But find a space, whether it's also a shared studio, it could be some place that you rent, or wherever feels comfortable and accessible for you. Then once you have the space, you can slowly start to invest in the tools that you need, and you can build up from there. Or if you want to start on a really cheap budget, you can just buy findings and start with making things from things that you find and assembling jewelry. But once you feel more comfortable with more techniques, soldering, sewing, filing, and all of those fun things, then you can obviously expand your collection and your tools and your materials as you go. But there's no need to feel like you need to have everything and a major massive setup to start off with. Like, for example, my setup that I have behind me here is pretty simple, to be honest, but with the style of jewelry that I make, it is totally fine. And occasionally I buy a new tool here and there, but essentially I can get by with a fairly minimal setup. And yes, you can too. Alrighty, now that you've got your first selection of jewelry made, the next thing you will need to do is to take some good photos of it. So make sure that your photos are as professional as you can do. So either taking the pictures yourself, if you feel comfortable doing that. I actually have a full course on jewelry photography using your phone or DSLR camera if you're interested in that. So you can teach yourself the skills that you need to make sure that your photos are professional. If you don't feel comfortable doing it and you're like, hell no, this is not for me, then you can outsource this by paying a photographer. One of the reasons I didn't choose to go down the paying a photographer route to start off with was because then it's an investment. And if you're still in the beginning stages, you might feel nervous about the investment and if the pieces are going to sell and if it's worth your while. And I really didn't want to have my feed have really professional looking photos next to my not so professional photos. So that's why I, through trial and error, managed to teach myself how to take better photographers so that I had the skills to do that permanently, rather than having to constantly invest in a photographer. But if you have the budget for it, by all means, go ahead and do it. It's an excellent way to really start off on a really strong footing. So it totally depends where you are at, how much time you have to dedicate to it and everything. So my point with taking good photos is that a photograph is the first thing people are gonna see of your jewelry brand. So it's really, really important to make sure that you make a good impression. Like when you meet somebody for the first time, you're gonna know whether you like them or not, whether you gel with them or not. Obviously, then you can get to know them better over time and make a more informed decision. But in an instant, when you meet them, you're going to know whether it's something you like or not. And especially when we're showcasing our jewelry on Instagram, for example, people have a very short attention span and they're going to scroll past if it doesn't grab their attention right away. So make sure that your pictures are professional and make sure that your jewelry stands out and is in focus and isn't blurry and it isn't being distracted by loads of things in the background. Anyway, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that because it's all in the course, but yes, that is an important point, which leads me to then talk about websites and platforms for selling your jewelry. So yes, we all know Etsy. It's a great place to start, but you don't have full control over how your brand is portrayed. They do change the terms and conditions sometimes, which might make it challenging for you as a designer. Also, it's an important thing to think about before applying and setting up on Etsy is have a look at the other price ranges that people are selling similar-ish kind of jewelry for and see if your jewelry is those sort of prices or if it's way more expensive or highly unlikely really cheaper than that. But if you take a really long time to make your jewelry and it's really intricate and expensive and made with silver and gold, for example, then Etsy might not actually be the best place for you, but rather having your own website might be a better option, because when people go to Etsy, they're looking for a quick, easy buy, a nice birthday present, Christmas present, Mother's Day present, whatever it is, but they're looking just to spend 20, 30 pounds, dollars, euros, around that sort of range from my experience. So personally, I do not sell on Etsy, but it might be the right place for you. So just consider that before you begin selling on there, because everybody is. So this leads me to point number 5, which I've already sort of started talking about in the previous point, but this is marketing. So selling your jewelry, because we can all make it, but if we don't have a way of selling it, then it's just an expensive hobby. So how do we do this? So there are different options, obviously. There are paid options with Facebook ads. But I personally would not recommend diving into Facebook ads unless you actually know what you're doing, because that can be a real money drain if you don't understand them. Because they are quite technical. When they work, they can work well, but it is quite hard to know and fully understand them. So I would avoid them unless you really know what you're doing with it. Also, when you're starting out your jewelry business, you're not really going to have such a super clear idea of who your audience is. And without knowing who your audience is, Facebook ads are not going to work. They're not going to be the magic golden solve all the problems. No. So you need to first understand your positioning, you need to understand your market, and you need to understand your ideal customer. So that leads me to some free options which don't take much commitment and investment in the beginning, which is using Instagram organically to create a beautiful portfolio of your jewelry, and you can sell like that by people finding your page, with you connecting with accounts of people that you think would really be interested in your jewelry. So try and avoid going out and just following all the other jewelry designers. Yes, that's nice to support each other, but in the end, a jewelry designer is unlikely to buy from another jewelry designer. Unless they really like it, they do. I have bought from jewelry designers too before, I must say. But essentially, you don't want to have your full audience of followers on your Instagram account of people who are like-minded, as in they're in the same position as you. You want your followers to be people who would potentially buy from you. So that's a whole other story, but make sure that you are not doing that. Which leads me to another point, which is if you're on Instagram, you'll see there's a sponsor this post little thing that pops up. So the way that works, some of you may have tried that. Drop me a comment down below if you have tried this or not. This works well if your followers are full of your ideal customer, people who want to buy from you. But if it is not, then it is basically what it's going to do is push your jewelry and that post to similar people to the people that are in your following. So if it's your mom, your cousin, your auntie, your neighbor, people who are your friends, but they're not necessarily your ideal client, then what Instagram is going to do is look at all of those people and say, okay, right, so this person is who I should be pushing it towards. So then it pushes it towards more of those kinds of people. And the point you have all been waiting for is my last point, which is marketing your jewelry through Instagram influencers. So this is a great, potentially free way of really expanding your market and finding the right kind of people for you. So by reaching out to influencers, either big influencers or micro influencers, is a super great way of one, giving somebody a piece of jewelry, and two, then them promoting it in a post or a story and tagging you and giving you a little shout out, because people love buying from people and people love social proof. So when somebody sees your piece of jewelry worn by some amazing influencer, then they might be like, oh my goodness, I want that. What it also does is it expands your horizon, expands your audience, so that it's not just your little bubble of people that have been seeing your jewelry for a long time, if they follow you on Instagram, but it expands that to a whole other huge big audience out there of people who are potentially interested in buying your jewelry. So that's why it's very important when you do connect with influencers to find the correct influencer, because they need to be someone who can genuinely promote your product. You don't want somebody wearing your jewelry going, this thing, and they're not really interested in it, it's not really their style, then they're not gonna wear it, they're not gonna actually promote it. But if they actually genuinely love your style and it's their aesthetic too, then they are so much more likely to genuinely promote your piece of jewelry and recommend you to other people. And all of their followers are obviously going to see them wearing your jewelry, which will then, hopefully, then they will come to you. Your follower base will grow with people who are interested in buying your jewelry. So there are so many people in the world, there are so many influencers in the world, and it is a really great free option. So I've been doing this for a while. I've had some great results from it, with people promoting my jewelry from them wearing it and genuinely loving it. So the idea with the influencers is to actually genuinely try and create a long-lasting relationship, so that over the years you can send them different pieces and they genuinely love your work and they can promote it happily. So this is definitely a better option than your jewelry sitting at home in storage, gathering dust. Well, those are my top 5 tips for how to Get out there, start your jewelry business, and turn that hobby into a successful jewelry business. Which was your favorite tip? Which one did you find most interesting? Let me know in the comments. And till next week, I am wishing you a super lovely, awesome, go get her week ahead. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week in another video. Till then, take care. Bye.